There is that measure out there. I think it's a ballot measure, but
It
it's
is.
where they want to label lion hunting as trophy hunting. And there's a guy there who's very passionate. He's been doing a lot of good work. His name's Dan Gates with Colorado for Responsible Wildlife Management.
For people listening who don't know what we're talking about, we should say mountain lion.
Mountain lion, yeah. Right.
Well,
they say mountain lion, bobcat, and then lynx.
They throw in lynx, which you can't hunt for anyways.
Yeah, it's not even
to create this idea that
it's not even legal. But they love putting this trophy hunting moniker out there because it's really easy to hate trophy hunting,
right?
Which isn't even legal. You can't even. They make it. I read this article from Colorado Sun or something like that, where it's like they want to eliminate people who kill mountain lions and just go cut their head off and just take it's like,
who fucking does that?
Nobody does that. But
nobody does that.
People who don't know think, oh my God, that's despicable. Let's outlaw this.
Serve them some mountain lion.
Well, what the aim here is that is the attempt to create a legal term, the attempt to create trophy hunting as a legal term. When you have a ballot measure, both sides argue about the language. Like when voters go in, what are they going to read? Obviously, you could write any ballot. If you could just write the ballot initiative how you wanted to, you'd win every time. But people got to debate the wording.
That's what they did with the wolf thing. Did you read the wolf thing?
I never actually read it.
I couldn't even tell what was for wolves and what wasn't.
Oh yeah.
It's like what the. I don't even know which one I'm against.
It was like forcing. It was. Does the state need to implement a reintroduction or discovery effort or something like that? And they're trying to. The debate comes around to, can you say trophy hunting?
Yeah.
In a ballot measure, because if you can
set the precedent,
if you can use that, what a great tool, because people are going to say, oh, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that kind of hunting.
Right.
Which would have widespread implications because, as demonstrated here with this deer here, there's a lot of parts of it that I don't throw away and I keep sitting around.
Yeah.
So is this a trophy or is it an emblem or what the hell is it?
Right.
But if I kept it, does that mean that I'm now captured under your definition?
Right. Right. Yeah. What is trophy hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the bringing in the wolves thing is pretty wild because there's no precedent. They really don't understand.
There's precedent.
Well, obviously with Montana, with Yellowstone,
Idaho's Frank Church, Yellowstone.
But long term, I mean, we've only been since the 1990s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a reason why they eradicated wolves. I don't agree with it, but when you have ranchers and you have all these people that their living is based entirely on the stock that they have and whether or not they make money enough to keep their farm running or not is depending upon how many animals they bring to market. And then you have wolves, and then you just bring in wolves.
Yeah, well, so there's if I got the tinfoil hat on, they want to eliminate hunting. I mean, they want to eliminate hunting and ranching. So they don't care about ranchers losing their animals. They would love people just to be 100% consumers, relying on the government so they can control them. They say, here's your food, here's what you're getting it from us, you're not out there hunting it for yourself. They hate hunters. If I was thinking about, the governor of Colorado, which is Polis, his husband is anti-hunting.
Yeah, he's an animal rights activist.
That's where all this is coming from. So, but if you look at the bigger picture, hunters, they cannot stand. Hunters are usually capable, confident. They have a skill set. You can't control people like that. Government wants people they can control. That'll be afraid when they're supposed to be afraid. Wear this mask when we tell you. Get this shot when we tell you. You get your food from the store. Here it is. And hunters,
I think there's certainly an element of that.
Hunters are the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think there's certainly an element of that, but I think it really all boils down to people that love animals.
I think I definitely detect that there's a complete disinterest in what hunters think about it, and they think that for someone to come in and argue by doing this wildlife measure, you're impacting, or like you would like this animal on the landscape for viewing pleasure. I like certain animals on the landscape for hunting, consumption, eating, whatever. And there's a conflict here where by doing this, you're going to lower, by increasing your likelihood of having viewer pleasure, you're having a potentially really negative impact on my use of natural resources. I think that they would look at you as though you don't have that you're ridiculous or evil or don't have a point in saying that you want to control, you want to limit predation on a resource you rely on. And they don't accept that as a reality. I haven't encountered a lot of like really, really forceful wolf advocates that are serious hunters. There's a trend there, you know. The thing that bothered me most about the Colorado reintroduction is that while the ballot measure was going forward, wolves showed up on their own. I would have imagined, even if I was on, and I'm not anti-wolf, but when they showed up on their own, I don't even know if it's legally possible, I would have halted that whole thing because the social friction is so much less if they walk in on their own.
Yeah.
Diane Boyd, who was the Montana wolf specialist for many years, she even came to believe in hindsight that the Idaho-Montana reintroductions ultimately would have been were unnecessary, and that you would have gradually achieved the same thing with wolves walking in on their own and had a very different societal perception of what was going on. People would look at it as a natural, like a natural dispersal, a natural occurrence, and not a government action, right?
Yeah, but I think they wanted that pomp and circumstance. Like Polis was there, I think, when they released the wolves in Colorado.
Yeah.
With a big stupid smile on his face.
Yeah, they want...
Everybody else, all the biologists, all had this like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, yay.
Yeah, they wanted...
Nature.
Right, they wanted that, you know, and if they knew the truth of how nature balances itself, it doesn't really balance. It's over, you know, predators kill way too many prey animals because there is no tag limits. They're not like, for example... They talk about trophy hunting lions or mountain lions. To hunt in Colorado, you have to take, it's very regulated. You take this test, so you learn how to identify a tom and a female. You learn how to age a little bit, you know, based on the coloring. You learn, you know, what size of track. So you have to go through this before you hunt.
And the whole quota system.
The quota, so the quota where I was, in the unit I was hunting, was 34 lions. Every night after 5, you call in to see where we're at. When I got there, it was at 31. I was there for 6 days. It was up to, it was 34 was the limit. It was up to 33. So one more lion could get killed. And then it's done. So it's not like...
What happens if like you kill at the same, you're in the woods, no signal, and someone else kills too until it hits 36?
It could. That's why you check
There's a window.
After 5.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think
and it'll usually click in like a 24-hour clock, or maybe they might have been immediate. I don't know.
You have 48 hours to turn it in there. And but anyway, point is, you're not over harvesting. You know, the estimate goes up to as high as 7,000 mountain lions in Colorado, probably maybe 5,000. But in the whole state, hunters are allowed to kill 450. And they've been doing this. And it's not like they're out there killing mountain lions, cutting their heads off, no regard for the numbers, wiping them out. It's so regulated. You know, you don't have to call and report your deer and elk. But lions are like a whole nother level as far as control.
And think about that quota system. If you have a horrific snowstorm that pushes all kinds of deer and elk out of high country, and like everybody and his brother, like a perfectly timed snowstorm, and everybody and his brother is just piling up deer and elk, they don't go, uh-oh, shut it down.
Yeah.
They sit back and they'll go like, wow,
Mother load.
what a harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, lions, they would come in and go, oh, done. But they got it's a perpetual motion machine where they've had a really healthy, stable population, minimum harvest.
Yeah.
It just goes on.
It's under 10%.
What's the thing that we should talk about when it comes to these the reintroduction of predators? Which listen, I fucking. I mean, you look out here, I have all these photos of wolves, and long distance photos of wolves They're probably my favorite animals. I just think they're the fucking coolest animals. I really do. Just looking at eyes, photos of them. If I come across photos of them, shit. They're majestic. But their numbers have to be managed. And as uncomfortable as that sounds for people, wildlife biologists, they have an understanding of the carrying capacity and the resources of the land. They understand how many hunters there are. They understand how many. That's how tags are allocated.
Yeah, it's not a guessing game.
Yeah, it's the way people need to understand this. It's like they've done this for a long time. These people have, you know, painstakingly researched these numbers. They know exactly what they're doing. But when it comes to this game of reintroduction of animals, the first step is they say there's a carrying capacity for the amount of wolves. This is the number. When it gets to that, we will agree to open up a season on wolf hunting. But every time that happens, there's lawsuits. And there's lawsuits to try to stop that hunt. And then the wolves get larger and larger.
Yeah.
And then you have larger and larger populations. I was looking at a graph the other day where they showed reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone, the amount of elk that existed, and now the amount of wolves versus the amount of elk. And it's pretty shocking. It's a giant drop. And they're so good at hunting. They're fucking amazing. But hunting wolves is insanely difficult. It's really hard to do. They're really fucking smart. They're really aware. Their senses are light years beyond what we can even physically imagine an animal to be capable of doing. In our minds, like we know that deer could. I remember I was watching an episode of your show where bear winded you guys at like fucking 500 yards or something.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. Their noses are fucking amazing. Their senses are amazing. I don't think we really. It's almost like looking at the size of the universe. Like, you know, it's 13 point whatever billion light years across. You don't fucking. That's just going in your head. You know, the kind of power that the senses of a wolf have. I don't think we could even really fathom it. So our thought is people are just going to go in there and wipe out the wolves like they did before. That's just ignorance. The way they wiped out before.
At this point,
was
you can go and
strychnine.
say that it's just that's not the reality, because after the delisting in the Northern Rockies, after the delisting, that didn't happen.
Right. Did they ever reach their quotas?
Yeah, they reach quotas. They every night, not every night, many nights. I'll check and y'all get notifications. Like the other night, I got a notification, whatever the hell, 313, whatever it was. Unit had hit its quota. Region 5 had hit its quota. I'm talking about in Montana. Whatever region hit its quota. At this point, we've hit at it is a stable. There is a stable population of wolves across a big chunk of range that are managed as a renewable natural resources. They're managed as a big game species. There is no problem. It still gets litigated all the time, but the whole idea that they're going to be pushed back onto the ESA, onto the endangered species list, the state doesn't want that. That'd be the worst thing that could happen to the state.
Right.
They're not going to shoot them into oblivion.
Right.
It's like we have wolves on the landscape, and you could have the extremes of people that want to live in a world where there aren't any. That's not realistic. Like, you lost that fight. You have extremes where people want to live in a world where there's as many as possible and there's no regulation on them, which isn't extreme because we could live in that landscape. But right now we're living in a landscape where there are wolves on the ground. There's a healthy population. There's hunting for them. There's a equilibrium emerging, and it's very livable. But in Colorado, it's like you got hunters that are, if hunters saw that there was a pathway to finding the extent of it, they would probably feel a lot better. But right now they're like, we're going to lose 50% of elk. We're going to lose 75% of elk. This is going to get litigated. It could be 100 years from now. We could have 90 years of full recovery objective. There's still no regulated harvest on wolves, and they're apprehensive.